Hi YouTube, I was just watching a video about, well, it was sort of a dialogue about Fight Club uh, by, by Stefan Molyneux, and he's talking with this man who reminds me of the spider from Game of Thrones. But anyway, I don't agree with everything they're saying, but they start to touch on some political issues, and I just think, hey, uh, I, I'll put my 2 cents in the arena on politics. Um, because I notice, with respect to the right and the left wing of politics, I just see this profound logical inconsistency. And it comes from both sides. This is what's so terrible about wing politics, I think, is that everyone cherry picks logic, and that's a problem. uh, because when you cherry pick logic, all it does is reveal personal bias. Um, it's the same thing that religionists do in the Bible and such. At least if you're secular, you can say, I don't agree with the Bible. There are things in it that are great merely because they comport to logic or my code of morality. But if you believe in the Bible, then you're cherry picking. You're discounting tons of parts of it, or you're reinterpreting it, etc. So one of the things that they talk about in politics is abortion, and so they're talking a little bit about abortion here and how it's appalling that this woman, promotes abortion, but then, you know, how she says, like, oh, babies are parasites until it's born. But then they go on. I mean, this is the problem with conservatives, is that you go on immediately after, and say, welfare recipients are parasites. And the thing is this, that all of it's true or none of it's true. You can't have both sides. And the right wing says abortion should be illegal, and welfare recipients are parasites. And that's cherry picking, because either you can see the parasitic nature of parasites or you cannot. And these are directly, there's a direct chain of events, of physical events between these two issues. And I see it like, okay, either you get rid of the welfare state and make abortion legal, or you uh, you leave um, abortion legal and get rid of the welfare state. I mean, there's no and really it's sort of an argument of personal responsibility. Um, the the hard part comes in when you give everybody responsibility, because at that point, yeah, but what about these conscious creatures that are humans that come out of irresponsible mothers? What are we to do with them? And at that point, I think you're you've basically broached into arcane territory where now we have to talk in secret, because the public discourse that follows would be met with wild resistance in the face of uh, the truth. And the other way, where you just take responsibility away and say, yeah, abortion is illegal, but we'll support you if we'll give you support because we forced you to have these children, basically. Um, that way is just, in my view, that's the wrong way. Um, so the problem is, again, it all draws back to political correctness, because the truth is that if there are irresponsible people having children, then they're you're demonstrably you're creating a problem. This is creating a problem by basically implying that everyone is responsible. You've created a problem because not everybody is responsible, and so this is why there's secret meetings about people being cattle and things like this, because you don't have a population of actually autonomous, enlightened people. You have a population of mostly cattle-like people who are just completely irresponsible in the face of their natural world events, in spite of consciousness being integral part of our reality. And so we end up with the tragedy of, well, the politics of America are that we've chosen the path of destruction, which is you've kicked out the arcane speakers. You've said, no, there's no way in hell that we're going to just let these conscious creatures go, find their way in another path. And there's no way we're going to ban abortion. And there's the thing, I don't agree with banning abortion. I'm not a conservative. I think that abortion should absolutely be legal, at least up to a certain point, maybe. Maybe there's an argument that there should be a cutoff point or something like that. I'm not denying that. But with respect to the initial abortion thing, where conception and, yeah, it's obvious you should be able to get rid of it. If it's really early, it's not conscious. It's not. That's the important part, is that we have no good evidence that something like that, a blastocyst, is conscious in any meaningful way. So what the problem I see is so here's the truth. What actually should be done. So and this is what anyone who doesn't care about being politically incorrect, who doesn't care if you actually want to get in my face and say you're a monster. I don't actually care, because I'm actually concerned with solving real problems. And normally, in arcane circles, people will talk openly about the truth and not be concerned about the rabble of mediocre minds. If there are people born into irresponsible narratives, meaning a fatherless household, a stupid mother, just the cattle people, basically, you don't get to just have the government pay for that. Because what you're doing is you're incentivizing stupidity. You're incentivizing bad genetics. You're incentivizing everything that we shouldn't be incentivizing. And that's not to say that everyone on welfare is a parasite. There are actually some people who should breed who can't make money, or in our current economic climate. And this is why this broad brush politics is a pretty bad idea. Things should be taken on an individual basis, but we need a standard. And unfortunately, we've wiped away the concept of building standards like this because we've just deemed important topics monstrous or something. And so we need a greater overhaul, and so that necessarily includes individual evaluation of people, actually, on a governmental level. And this is where I can get pushback from libertarians saying you're getting too much in people's business, or the government's getting too much in people's business. And that would be true if this weren't actually already a problem. And the bigger picture is very much that the alternative is wrong. And I'm flying under the assumption that you care about logical consistency. And logical consistency necessarily entails that you either allow abortion and disallow welfare, or I should say general welfare, and or you disallow abortion and allow welfare. So, yeah, and I'm not even broaching the other side because I just think the other side's wrong. I could try to justify that to the end of the logical conclusion and still look like a fool. The correct side, though, in my view, based on logical consistency, does mean that so it raises this question. Ultimately, we land on the question, what do you do with this half-witted child of irresponsible parents? What do you do with this seeming ward of the state? And I'll tell you, when you sufficiently have discerned the value of this individual, and how we figure out that value is a rather complicated topic, but again, we've gone so far in the wrong direction that we have no idea how to broach this, and we'd be starting from scratch in a way. So once you determine the value, you can either place that being into some sort of care, where it can be either let be or utilized. I mean, that's really what we're looking at here, is some sort of utilization. Now, with that comes an entirely other issue, and this is a problem that is infectious across our entire planet, the commodification of conscious creatures, which is a terrible error, in that it, of course, incentivizes the commodification of conscious creatures, which is bad. So, well, initially, this is essentially bad. Obviously, anything taken to its extreme is extremely bad. And moderate commodification of conscious creatures I would argue, is necessary. I mean, in other words, we built civilization that way. So, it's not all bad, it's just bad in its most toxic forms, and we should avoid that at all costs. But our world is all about it, and has actually taken it to the extreme. I mean, this is the entire reason that veganism is a word. It is because people have decided that the monstrous and cruel commodification of conscious creatures is a problem. Now, again, we're really, I'm actually sort of reframing the narrative here, because I'm making no differentiation between animals and humans in a way. I'm saying that they have the same value with their consciousness, or not same, but they have. There is no magical tier gradient difference of them. There is a difference. There's certainly gradients of consciousness that are meaningful. For example, I mean, just to use the lowest hanging fruit, do you value the life of an insect as much as a human? The obvious answer is no, I don't. I could even being vegan, mostly, I guess I would say I'm vegan sensitive. Um, I could even justify eating bugs, in most, I would say most contexts. I mean, you kill a mosquito, um, there's more to be said. Actually, I'm not going to use that mosquito thing. I'm just going to say, I think the consciousness of bugs is so low that it's not that big of a deal. The mosquito thing is a separate issue because what we're talking about is vectors, and they're actually vector humans, um, that should be destroyed just as easily. It doesn't regardless of what apparently their consciousness is. So yeah, welcome to the arcane corner where I talk about shit nobody actually wants to broach because they'll be painted as a monster if they do. Um, yeah, so what would you do, with these wards? And I I I don't have all the answers. I just know that this is the way the narrative should be framed. And it has a lot to do with recognizing that um, there's long run behavior and consequences of how you organize a society, and that incentives are the primary uh, focus for how we should be organizing a global society. Good things should be incentivized, bad things should not. And we should be doing our best to root out religious dogma from the way we organize things, including the doctrine of human supremacy and um, ultimately the fundamental assumption that uh, there are these that consciousness doesn't obviously pervade conscious creatures. This is the I think this is the most this it's the single most damaging thing to consciousness itself is yeah, staring directly at an animal and not understanding clearly just the obvious truth that it's conscious. It's not a, that's not pork, that's a pig. And here's the thing. Now I'm broached with this is, if you haven't um, encountered this, there's now basically a black consciousness movement that says that white people are unconscious, that they don't have a conscious mind, more or less making the argument that it's the exact same argument that meat eaters make, that oh, their consciousness doesn't matter. Now there's this black consciousness movement that say white people are in the uh, same vein as animals, my fundamental thesis is that no, we are all conscious, black, white, cow, pig, sheep, snake. It's all in the vein of conscious creatures, and it's really obvious if you're willing to uh, have a clear mind, if you're willing to wipe away the delusions and see the raw data of reality. But we've been so thoroughly indoctrinated by evil that now it's even acceptable that we're seeing black consciousness movements that are saying white people don't have consciousness, and of course in the past it's been the case where um, everyone has done that to anyone they want to enslave and conquer. So uh, yeah, that's a little bit of my thoughts on politics. It's kind of funny how we go from abortion and welfare to consciousness, but I think that it's all connected. And I would say that the next 20 years of, excuse me, of human, maybe 10 years of sort of human development we're going to be moving into the field um, of exactly what I'm talking about. You know, how we're framing the narrative and what the reasons are, how it's important for different kinds of ways to think about the world around us, and it's I'm frustrated by the fact that I'm way ahead of my time, but nonetheless, here I am. You know, in 20 years, someone will find my video and find them unprofound. Right now, most people will look at me like I'm crazy or uh, fringe or something. Um, so yeah, I hope the future can get here a little bit faster so that we can stop doing damage. Um, who knows? Maybe someday I'll just be a leader. But for now, I'm just a magician. Uh, or a sage. There we go. I'm just a sage. I'm just a sage. I'm not a warlock. I'm a sage. Yeah. So that was a little bit of my view on left right politics too. Just it's farcical. You've arbitrarily divided the same issue and then picked a side. And I'll sort of finish this with this thought. If you've chosen to be right or left, or you find that paradigm to be dual, I find you woefully misguided. I find you just lost. You're a lost kind of person if you think that politics is right and left wing, or Democrat and conservative, or progressive and Republican, or whatever. I think that if you're choosing a side in all of this, you're failing. You fundamentally fail. You fall in for the trick, and they they feed on your power. And at this rate, I mean, nobody seems to be changing. I'm starting to think I know exactly how to do this. I know how to grab hatred and use it for fuel. This is entirely the strategy of some very successful people, including Donald Trump, Kanye West. There's a new guy coming up called um, something McDonald. Uh, Tom McDonald. He made us some songs like "Politically Incorrect" and "White Boy," and it's just, I mean, this is exactly what ultimately the elites do. They just make you fucking hate them, and they use your passion to fuel their machine. I mean, I'm tempted to just do this because I just it's pathetic. There's so much hatred to go around, and for bad reasons. It's like because you don't understand the bigger picture. You're seeing things as two-sided. It's the same fucking thing. You're looking at a hydra and saying one head is good, one head is bad. It's the same fucking hydra. You don't see that? It's the same hydra. Uh, you know, fucking fighting on, trying to chop its head off. It's stupid as fuck. So yeah, that's my thoughts on some politics. I hope I can someday, find some other wizards to sort of take over the world with. I guess I'll be waiting for eternity. Good thing I have it, eternity.